Cold water embraced me, dragging me to the depths. Salt violating my eyes. Water invading my mouth. I am sinking to my death. As oblivion forces its way into my lungs, I hear a voice. Sweet, welcoming, and ominous. I want you to be mine, forever. With darkness pulling my soul, there is only one answer. Yes. The tip of a spear pushed into my back, prodding me forward. A brick-walled tunnel lays before me. I keep walking, but I have no idea where I am. How long have I been here? I still have my clothes and my belongings as far as I can tell. How did I get here? I wondered if I was even still armed, but I dare not move my hands to find out. Stepping out of the tunnel, I'm welcomed by a grim sight. In front of me is a man with his nose in the air, in fine robes, and holding a ceremonial dagger. While I might not be the best with a blade, I've been around them long enough to tell it's been well used. The robes did not bode well either. He is a judge or a holy man. Neither are good news. To my right, an orc was bound to a large wooden cross, each limb shackled to an individual chain, and on the other end of the chain, a horse. All four of them facing toward an open gate leading to the outside. To the left, another orc, but unlike me, his hands were bound. To the other side of him, a lady. I don't have much experience with her kind, but I believe they are called tabaxi. I don't get out much. Move, the guard behind me grunted as he pushed me forward onto the platform with the other captives, sinners, prisoners, I am not yet sure. The sudden jolt from behind triggered a small coughing fit, filling my lungs with the taste of salt. Judas, the judge spoke. How does he know my name? You stand accused of theft, bribery, murder, slandering our most holy gods, and defiling the mistress of the moon temple. How do you plead? I was so busy looking around for any religious or authority symbols, I didn't realize the words had slipped from my lips. No, if I had that good of a time, I'm sure I would remember it. Excuse me, the judge's voice boomed. I coughed again to hide my words, and again the taste of salt, accompanied by the slight scent of seawater. I didn't do any of that, Your Grace or Your Honor. Is that all you present in your defense? The judge smiled. I think he caught me trying to figure out what he is, and he isn't telling me. I only know that he apparently holds the Moon Temple in high regard, and saying something about that from me might be a sensitive subject, given what I'm being charged with. Not knowing what religion or authority this man serves, I might as well be blind. This man says he saw you do all this, he said, gesturing to the orc bound to the rack. He placed you there, in exchange for a lighter sentence. As he spoke, I realized what this was. Entertainment. I am neither lucky enough nor ambitious enough to get all that done, I started, and then looked the orc in the eyes. I have no idea who he is. I have never seen him before. And besides, you already have him bound. With a laugh, the judge snapped his fingers. A whip cracked and all four horses ran to the gate. Seconds later, wood peeled and splintered. The scent of dust and blood filled the air. I closed my eyes and took a few deep breaths. I dared not look at the mess I had just made. Don't be ashamed, boy, came the judge's old deep voice. He looked at me and handed me his dagger. I heard the guards behind me ready their spears. You were honest and passed judgment. Now I have two more for you to pass judgment on. An orc accused of being a child killer. And the lady, she is believed to be a witch. Pass judgment on them, and if I like your answers, I will release you." In the act of handing me the dagger, he's already told me what judgment he expects. I stood in front of the second orc, the one to my left. He was broken and bruised. He was far too injured to resist. I felt my heart pound heavily in my chest. I grabbed his shoulder and slammed the dagger into him, aiming for his heart. It was nothing personal. It was him or me. When the dagger was removed, blood freely flowed from the wound. It was indeed fatal. He fell to his knees, and then to his side. The body spasmed violently as life flowed from it. It will be over quickly. Then I stood in front of the lady. She had cat features. If I had ever seen a tabaxi this close before, I couldn't remember it. She was breathing hard, her chest heaving, her face a bloody grimace. The defeat in her eyes. It seemed like she was resigning herself to my blade, simply to be spared an even more disturbing death, possibly like that of the orc bound to the rack. Again, it's nothing personal. I rose the blade, ready to strike, but was stopped by a voice in my head. Warm, soft, sweet. My heart calmed, and the fear melted away. It was the same voice I heard before. It said, "Save her, my love." Somehow, I could tell this was not my imagination. Something was forcing its will into my head. I couldn't remember how I knew, but this is definitely an otherworldly being. Something from other planes of existence. A familiar feeling of dread filled my soul. Something or somehow knowing of these beings. Disobedience means severe punishment. Flames under the skin. Burning away memories, hope, and even joy. I lowered the dagger and looked back to the man in authority. "Is there any chance this one is innocent?" I asked. The judge's face became a flash of irritation. "She is guilty of something, I am sure. And so are you. I'm simply offering you a way to clear yourself. Well, at least for a time." With that statement, I knew I was not trapped in some rich madman's home. This man is an official authority. He could release me and get me back. I had to make my words count. "Well, Your Honor, I'm sure we both know orcs aren't good for much." Saying that, I watched his face to see if he approved of what I just said, or if he could already tell I'm trying to appeal to him. He seemed smart, at least for a psychopath. His face gave away nothing. So I continued with my gambit. "However, witches and warlocks seek power. Killing them just sends them to the demons that they serve. The best punishment is to take away their power. For this lady, make her a servant. To live out life powerless." In saying that, I was aware I wasn't exactly saving this so-called child of the moon. But it might buy time to concoct a better plan. Whoever or whatever is in my head may just have to be disappointed for a time. I'm not dying for anyone. I know where I'm going when my life ends, and I'll do anything to avoid that. The old man let a smile form over his cracked face. He snapped his fingers and the gate opened from the other side of the large room. Barks and snarls erupted from that chamber. 3 huge wargs appeared, held at bay only by soldiers holding their collars. The old man looked the lady and myself over, like he was savoring it. Then his dry voice hummed out, "You have 10 minutes. Use them wisely." Without a word or thought, I grabbed the tabaxi's wrist and cut her hands free, then started sprinting for the outside. As the cool, fresh night air welcomed us, I chanced to look back. It seemed like he was staying to his word. The wargs had not moved. I knew not where I was going, only to make as much distance as possible. But there was a problem. The woman the voice had asked me to save was becoming an anchor. She was breathing heavily, in spite of seeming to be in much better shape than me. After what may have been minutes or just seconds of running, I heard her yell out to me, "Please stop, I must rest." She insisted, bringing her feet to a dead stop. This won't do. Trying to save this person's going to get me killed. I've seen what happens to heroes, and I am no hero. "Please," she said again. "They tortured me. No food, no water." I could hear the wargs clearly now. Their barks and snapping teeth are beginning to dominate the air. No way that was 10 minutes. That son of a bitch released them early. "Lady, I'm only considering helping you because someone very powerful wants you alive, but if you don't give me something I can use, I will leave your dead weight right here." A flash of panic filled her eyes. "Look, I know what they're doing, and where we need to go. They will not hunt past the bank of the river to the east." She pointed out the direction for me. So it seems like she knows this forest. She might be a local. Perhaps she can be useful after all. I grabbed her arm again. "If you can speak, you can run." And I pulled her as I ran in the direction that she pointed. While she was at least running, she was still holding me back, and I could hear the wargs getting closer. I began to growl through my teeth. "Whoever you are in my head, if this person is important to you, I need help." Again, the voice overwhelmed my thoughts. Her voice, calming my heart and my breathing even as I still ran. "My love, you don't see what I see, yet you serve my will, so a gift shall be imparted." What the hell does that mean? I complained as I felt another deep breath fill my lungs. My heart again pounded, and sweat began to roll down my face. I could hear the wargs a distance away, but they were gaining very fast. Then, tree branches, only feet away, began snapping. One of them must have broken from the pack and got much closer. It would be on us in seconds. I tried to look, but it was dark. It was just a large mass. It was moving at me so fast, there was no time. At this point, I had to accept I had made the wrong gambles. I was a dead man, but at least I could go out stabbing. I planted my feet and pushed the woman ahead of me. Who knows, maybe she can get out of this alive. I turned towards the large creature, lifted my dagger ready to defend myself. And then, somehow, maybe by instinct, I felt magic flow from me into the dagger. It began to glow and give me just enough light to see what was around me. A bulk of white fur flew over me and landed in front of the tabaxi, cutting off our escape. Now I was able to clearly see the beast. It was a white dire wolf with pale blue eyes. It bowed its head and kneeled down. The beast motioned its nose towards its back. With the barks of the wargs now only moments away, I had no time to question what was happening. I pushed the lady and myself onto the wolf's back and held on. The forest became a blur as the wolf carried us. I really couldn't feel its paws touching the ground. It seemed as though I had only blinked, and suddenly we were at a stop. I looked around to find that we were on the other side of a small river, the light of the moon reflecting off of its turning waters. And on the other bank, a warg broke the tree line and stopped. It sniffed at us in frustration. There was a horn blowing in the distance, and it disappeared back into the forest. The pursuit had been called off. This was no sport hunting. There must be some real reason they do not dare continue their game to this side of the river. We both slid off the wolf's back and fell to the ground, trying to catch our breaths. Then the wolf, turned towards me and got very close to my face. "I am no beast," she said without moving her mouth. "I am a fae, given a charge from our shared acquaintance. I am Zalaria. And know this, champion, neither of us will do your deeds for you. You must earn what has been given." And with that, Zalaria faded, and a white dagger appeared in my lap. I looked it over. It was a simple dagger, with a wolf carved into the handle. I slid it into my belt, along with the ceremonial dagger that I had apparently stolen from the judge. I guess he'll just have to buy another one. I can't say I feel too bad for him. This tabaxi lady and I sat there, both of us trying to calm down. Our breathing, after some time, finally became calm. After yet another few minutes, I stood, ready to tell her she was on her own, and start making my way as far from this insane place as possible. She stood with me, and then leaned into me. I could feel her skin pressing to mine for just a brief instant, almost as if she used a pretend stumble as an excuse to touch me. Okay, I've been here before. Surviving something dangerous, the awkward excuses to touch each other, but I simply don't have time for it. I don't want to be here any longer than I have to be. "Listen," she said, tracing a finger over my sweat-soaked chest before stepping back. "I know a town not far from here called Xerdus. Escort me there, and I will see to it that you're handsomely paid and properly thanked." I started looking her over, and I have to admit, I started changing my mind. Let's face it, a tussle with a beautiful woman doesn't come along every day. Yet, to my disappointment, my eyes began to catch things that weren't quite right. It was in the way she moved. A slight jerkiness that doesn't come from soft-fleshed mortals. I knew these movements, but I couldn't remember how I knew. Every time I tried to think about it too hard, all I could see was dark clouds and shadows, fragmented pieces of studying the occult, my study of beings from beyond our realm trying to piece each other together. And then finally, for just an instant, I saw it. The arms were bony, not firm. The claws were in fact untrimmed black nails. Her nose protruding out to a crooked point. I was looking at a hag. I pulled the white dagger and pointed it at her. "I have been told that you're much more than you appear to be. Who are you? No, what are you, really?" Sure, I was lying about how I figured it out. But I've found that there's an advantage over creatures like this if they underestimate you. Her face twisted into an expression. I couldn't tell if it was a smirk or a sneer. "Oh, what do you mean, Sir Champion?" The last said in a mocking tone. The illusion faded, and the hag stood before me. Black coverings, crooked nose, greasy dark hair, and everything that came with it. "Chelsandra was finally right about something. You are special." "Who is Chelsandra?" I cut her off. "You're not very bright, though." She cackled through her crippling voice. "Chelsandra is the one who's been talking to you. She is why you were able to make that dagger glow. I assure you, that is about the extent of her power. She couldn't even see through my illusion, but you could, Sir Champion. You have the potential to be very powerful, if you had the right patronage." With those words, she changed again. Before me now was a human woman. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and not a stitch of clothing. "Renounce Chelsandra, and embrace me as your patron. With you at my side, we could do great things. You my king, and I your queen. And I can be any woman you want, when you want. It's about this point that I had the thought, why do I only attract the crazy women? I mean, again, it was a tempting offer. Well, the power part anyway. But more importantly, she had given me clues as to what's happening. She's talking about serving a patron. I know about this. I know I do. But damn it, it's escaping me. At least I know, though, it is a way to obtain power. But whenever I tried to remember more, especially when I tried to remember if I had served one before, again, nothing but the black clouds. Nothing but darkness choking my thoughts. However, I knew I didn't trust this. And as much as I liked what I saw, I would always know that under the illusion was this unsavory creature. With my decision made, I told her, "Look, I'm not ready for that kind of commitment. It's not you, it's me." You know, it's amazing how that is never, ever the right thing to say. The beautiful blue-eyed vision again contorted into a snarling face of a hag. A bony finger pointed at me. "No one denies me. One day I will have you. You are protected right now, but I know your soul. Chelsandra is naive, but when she sees you for the evil being you are, you will fall from her graces. When you do, I'll be there to claim you. You will serve me as the dark harbinger you were meant to be." With that, she melted into black mud and disappeared into the ground. Gosh, and some people say men can't handle rejection. And one thing's for sure, after today, I will never complain about being bored again. Standing there alone now, tired, exhausted. All I knew was that I wanted to get away. So, I held up the white dagger, and again thought about how I could really use some light to see. Then the dagger began to glow, pouring light onto the trees and foliage around me. I knew enough about magic to know this was a spell, but I have no recollection of learning this one. In childhood, I had dabbled in magic lore and reading about it and the beings and places it comes from, but I wasn't a gifted practitioner. But I got the very strong sense I had been using it for a while, and used it naturally. I could tell that I hadn't lost my memory. As I walked, I kept trying to pick through my brain. I remembered childhood and pieces of other moments, and I have knowledge that I could feel came from experiences. This felt more like specific memories had been locked away from me. Not long after I started walking, I found a small path. I could tell it was a footpath. No carts had been on this road. The path had been grown over, but I could tell it had been walked enough to where it would eventually take me to a major road and then hopefully to a town. Eventually the path became wide enough and covered with gravel that I felt safe to look up and look around me. Sometime later, I saw what looked to be a house. It looked dilapidated, abandoned to time. I knew it would be dangerous to attempt to stay there. But then again, if I fell asleep out in the elements, I was as good as dead. As I left the path to walk towards it, I could feel confusion in my mind, but it wasn't mine. "Champion," the voice of Chelsandra whispered to me, "I need you to stay the path. You have shown me that you can stand against a hag Malevolus. I knew you could. She has something that belongs to me in her shrine. Go to the town of Xerdas and bring it back to me. This Chilsandra is very high maintenance for a being of some other plane or existence. Again, it can never just be a normal nice lady for me, not for Judas Lightforge. I didn't respond to her, and just continued stumbling my way towards the home. There were no signs of life, so I broke down the door with my shoulder. The wood was rotted, and the lock popped right off. Even though I wouldn't want to live there, it was good for a night's stay. I was hungry and tired, but just escaping captivity left me with little. I took off my pack and my long dark coat and searched through the pockets. To my surprise, I still had some gold and silver coins. This is a lot of money. Did my captors not search me? Was I just moved right through? I have no memory of a cell. I was still coughing up salt water. Was I just fished out of the sea? I continued to search through my pack, but even with the light from my dagger, my sight and my mind were getting fuzzy. I couldn't focus on anything except hopefully finding some food. Inks, loose pages, a book, all shoved to the side. Finally, salted jerky wrapped in a tight paper. I hungrily just ripped it open and started eating. After finishing the last bite, I laid back on the floor, unable to move anymore, and sleep immediately took me. I woke up, afraid. I just knew danger was near. Then a warm hand touched my shoulder. "Rest, my love," said the familiar voice. It was natural, like she had always been there, and I had knew her for years. I looked to her only to catch a glimpse of a blue and gold glowing figure. I met the gaze of her red eyes just before she faded away. I woke up and reached my hand over beside me. No one was there. What an odd dream. In fact, what was I reaching for? Did I have a dream? I had a thought, but I lost it. Whatever it was, I'm sure it was nothing. However, whenever it comes to real things, surviving is real, and that's something I really have to do. I was beyond lucky to still have my pack and some gold on me. Maybe my luck could hold out. I ransacked the house and found a few useful items. I found a rope that I'm not so sure I can trust. There was an old bedroll that was tucked inside of a closet, but it looked like it was still useful. There were other things, but at this point, I felt like I had packed everything I really could. From here, I knew my mission. I had to get to Zerdus, a town with a hag that's not very happy with me. It wasn't much of a problem. When I found myself on the main road, it seemed like I just knew which turns to take. There weren't many to begin with. When I came to a turn, lost in thought, it was like my feet just carried me to where I needed to go. I knew I had arrived when I came to a large gate built around several buildings within. The town was much bigger than I had suspected it would be. I had thought I was going to walk into some hag's hovel or dirt mound. But no, this was tall fences and guard towers. In fact, I was going to have to ask the guards to let me in. I observed that the guards, at least the ones where I was getting ready to enter, were human. But then on the other side of the gate, through the gaps, I could see there was an orc in there working. He was carrying bundles. This led me to believe that this hag that I had to see wasn't the one running things. She probably had them all fooled into thinking she was some beautiful blonde, nude woman. I mean, I have to admit, it almost worked on me. As I approached, the guard held up his hand. He said, "Hey, 5 silver to enter Judas." I started fishing through my pockets, and before hearing in a pig's voice, "He'll pay for us too," I looked to see an orc approach from behind me, with a armor-clad tabaxi not too far behind him. The guard then looked at me expectantly. "Listen, sir, I never saw this asshole before," I told the guard. He didn't believe me. And then those two just walked right on through. I hated to let them get away with it, but the last thing I needed to do was walk into Judas causing a fight. So I just paid the 15 gold and walked on through, hopefully before somebody else could con me. And just as I entered the threshold, I felt something else, like a mass had been moved by me through magic. Something crazy was definitely happening at Judas, and the people walking in with me are even crazier. I think I really need to avoid them and just do my job and get out. And that concludes the first episode. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully I'll be able to put out more episodes. If you're interested, feel free to subscribe and hit that bell or whatever else, whatever YouTube is doing at the time. But thank you very much.